It turns out they were right. The influencers that just kept shoving the message that lean is low were actually right. The best I've ever looked in my entire life, in my entire time lifting, right? The best I've ever looked was when I was 9.1% body fat. And the interesting thing about this is I'd only trained for 7 months at this point, so I had little muscle mass compared to like the point where I started at, right? I started off basically underweight, medically underweight, not just underweight, medically underweight. According to the BMI scale thing, you know, the BMI scale, I was underweight, like skinny as fuck, right? So basically, like, if I was shirtless, you would actually count the bones in my rib cage. I was skinny as fuck, right? And I trained for 7 months. But in my training, when I was training, right, I basically did something called a lean bulk. So I did a lean bulk for 7 months, right? I'll get into both of these. I'll get into all the journeys, right? Like the processes. I did a lean bulk and I was 9.1% body fat, lean, shredded. And that's the best I ever looked without even a large amount of muscle mass, right? Now, I did a bulk, and in this bulk, I did it for 8 months, and I put on a fuck ton of weight. I put on like 30 pounds of mass, right? 30 pounds of mass, significant different from when I was 9.1% body fat. I still had a little bit of visible abs, but I was not like 15% body fat, right? And with all this muscle mass that I put on, I still wasn't as aesthetic as I was after just 7 months of training, right? Now, let me explain to you both of these processes so you can actually get like a good idea of what happened here. I went to the gym for the very first time, right? I set foot in the gym for the very first time around the point where I was telling you where I was like super skinny as fuck, you could count my bones, whatever. I set foot in the gym for the very first time. I trained for 7 months doing a lean bulk, and I trained the 7 aesthetic muscles, right? So my training was really good because I wasn't training like power lifters who tell you to do like bench press, squats, and deadlifts. I was actually training the right muscles, which gave me the aesthetic physique, because my goal was always just to be as aesthetic as I can to the female gaze, right? So I was trying to just get as many bitches as I can, right? So that was the goal. So I trained for 7 months, and after 7 months of training, I had developed the 7 aesthetic muscles to a good extent, right? I'd put on a little bit of muscle mass, approximately 16 pounds, right? So I went from 154 pounds to 170 pounds, right? And I was still 9% body fat. So the mass that I put on was basically just all muscle mass, right? And at that point, that's basically the best I've ever looked my whole life, right? Just because I was 9% body fat, right? The muscle mass wasn't really all that, but because I was just so lean, I looked so good, right? Now, from this point on, after like the 7 months I've just explained to you, I did a bulk, just an actual bulk, a normal bulk. I was eating in a surplus, eating like 5 meals a day, right? I put on lots of weight very quickly, and it was strange because I've always struggled to put on weight. As you'd imagine, that's why I've been skinny my whole life, right? So like I was really just suffering through this process, right? I would wake up in the middle of the night, I can't breathe, I'm just like dredging every bit of it, right? I feel like throwing up every single moment. It's like I was just using discipline to get through this entire bulk, but I did it anyways. I did it, and I put on like 30 pounds of mass, right? So I was big now, right? I could lift like fucking heavy weights, right? I'll go to the gym, pick up heavy ass dumbbells, right? Lift like heavy ass dumbbells, throw them to the ground, make so much noise. I'm thinking, yeah, this is the shit. I'm lifting heavy weights, right? People are looking over and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's lifting, right? He's lifting. But the goal originally was to get female attention, and it just seemed like I was looking worse and worse, even though I'm putting on more muscle mass. I'm in the gym more, but I'm just getting less and less results, right? Which is interesting because you'd imagine if I'm putting on all this muscle mass, I would actually be getting better results. But that wasn't the case. It's because I was just putting on lots of body fat, and the more body fat I put on, the less aesthetic I became, right? So it was very interesting because after like a year and 3 months, right? 15 months. After like the 15 months of the 7 months bulking, lean bulking and being like lean and aesthetic, and then the 8 months of just like a actual just bulk. After the 15 months, I looked back and I thought, you know what? I would just much rather be lean and aesthetic, right? Even with the amount of muscle mass that I had after 7 months, I was still more aesthetic then than I was after 15 months of training. With a little bit of muscle mass, I was still more aesthetic just because like I had really nice abs, all the muscles, like I was just lean and aesthetic, all the muscles were kind of developed, right? So now, going back to just being lean, so I'm cutting right now, right? I've been at it for like 10 weeks now, and I've made like huge progress, by the way. In the 10 weeks, right, I've actually lost like 11-12 pounds, right? So I started off at like 198 pounds. I'm down to like 186. Day 1 of the cut. Day 10 of cutting. This is day 20 of the cut. This is day 30 of the cut. Day 40 of the cut. Day 50 of the cut. Day 60 of the cut. This is the physique after 60 days of cutting. Day 70 of the cut. This is the current physique after 70 days of cutting. And after just shredding down this fat, right, I'm now looking back and I'm thinking, okay, this is what it's about, right? Being lean is what it's about. The influencers that were telling you like, okay, don't do like a huge bulk, don't eat like in a crazy surplus, just eat in a little bit of a surplus and just put on like muscle mass slowly over time. They were actually right. They were right. Lean bulking is actually better than just doing a huge bulk and putting on like a fuck ton of body fat. Especially if your goal is to be aesthetic, right? If your goal is to build an aesthetic physique, lean bulking is probably the best thing to do. Because now I'm cutting, of course, and now I'm back to being like, right now I'd put myself at like 10, no, not 10 actually, more like 12% body fat, right? I would put myself at about 12% body fat. I've got the nice abs now. I'm pretty lean and aesthetic. I'm going to cut down all the way to like the 9% body fat where I'm just like fucking shredded, right? And it's like my abs are like ridges, right? So I'm going to cut down to that point. But after like 10 weeks, I've made really, really good progress, right? Like influencers online, when they sell you like a dieting course, they'll promise you to lose like half a pound a week. I've lost like 1 pound a week or a little bit more than 1 pound a week, right? So I've made like really, really good progress, right, with this. And now it's like I'm at a point where I look at my physique and I'm thinking, you know what? It doesn't seem like I've put on any more size, obviously, because my weight is going down like week by week, but the physique is going up week by week. Like I look bigger. Every time I look at myself, I look bigger, I look more aesthetic, right? I go out wherever, I can take off my shirt. If you look at some of the videos I record here on this channel, I'm recording shirtless in the streets, just walking around, right? Because now, like, it's like, the confidence of the aesthetic physique is back, right? The confidence of the aesthetic physique is back. Fuck this whole thing of putting on like a fuck ton of weight and then you cut and then like after 5 years you now like start having the aesthetic physique after 5 years. Fuck all of that, right? I just want to have the aesthetic physique now and put on the muscle mass slowly, right? I don't want to suffer the pains of just not liking my training, not liking the whole lifting thing, not liking going to the gym just because like I feel fat and bloated and whatever, right? I just want to be like lean, aesthetic, and then I can put on the muscle mass slowly over time, right? So it turns out they were actually right about this. The influencers that say just be lean and aesthetic, they were right. When I was 9% body fat, like that's the best I've ever looked, even after like training for like 17 months now, I think it is. I still think after just 7 months of training, this was the best I've ever looked, right? So the plan is to just go back to being just lean. Lean is low, right? I'm going to go back to 9%. And when I go back to 9%, I'll just start putting on the muscle mass slowly, right? Now that I'm actually at a good level of muscle mass, right? I can get like the results of the attraction, whatever, and the attention from just being lean, and I can also just go to the gym and put on the muscle mass slowly. So I'm not really obsessed over it as I was when I first started, right? Because when I first started, I just really wanted the results, but now I'm not really obsessed over it. I can just coast through it and I can make progress slowly, right? So now it's easier for me to do a lean bulk. It's easier for me to make like slow progress in just putting on muscle mass slowly than it was back then when I started. Because when I started, I just wanted the results instantly, right? But the big lesson here is you'd much rather just be lean and aesthetic than to first go through the sufferings of trying to put on like a fuck ton of muscle mass, or like you put on lots of body fat and then you know on a cut and whatever, right? You'd much rather just do a lean bulk than just do like a huge bulk. I did it for 8 months, and I think just if I'd spent that 8 months doing a lean bulk, I'd have been just happier overall, right? Just because I would have just stayed lean and continued to enjoy the processes during that time, right? So I genuinely think if like when I'm like 9% body fat with this much amount of muscle mass where I am right now, because I've been training for a while, I think that would be most ideal and optimum situation, right? Just being like lean and aesthetic rather than just trying to put on all this muscle mass and fat at the same time and then think about cutting after years of doing this. I just think like lean bulking and being lean throughout the whole process is probably the best situation, right? So this is just like a little update and video that I had for you. Like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel.